Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Hooey, it's been hot out.
It is. It's a heat wave
Dog
going on in
days
the
of
Midwest.
summer.
Yes, late July, super hot.
But so muggy.
Yeah. Well, and I got it pretty bad yesterday. I thought I'd run early.
Yeah.
I ran 10 miles yesterday, and
Wow.
it just it was not early enough. So it was 90 by the time
Yeah.
that second half of it.
I've been trying to get my runs in really early too. And at night before I go to bed, I look at the hourly forecast, right? Last weekend, I had to do my long run on Saturday, and I looked at the forecast, and it was 7 a.m. It was already going to be like the real field temperature was already like 98 degrees. I'm like, no.
Good news, the 26th, I hear the heat wave breaks.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
it should be a lot nicer.
Excellent.
And so if you're not in the Midwest and don't have to deal with the incredible heat, more power to you. I know that in California and stuff, it's like hellish temps right now.
Oh, is it?
Like when I say hellish, like
Really hot.
like the devil is the forecaster.
But not as humid though, right? Or I suppose it depends on where.
It's a dry heat, Wendy.
Okay.
So anyways,
Well,
we're enjoying the summertime here.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. And it sounds like we're complaining, but actually it's hot and it's summer, and I'm glad it's summer.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's way better than winter.
we choose to torture ourselves by running in this heat. So
Anyway, so it's hot, but that just means it's supernaturally hot over here. So
Yes.
there's always fun going on. You know, the heat has not stopped people from playing the Pokemon Go.
wandering, and I see them on my runs all the time. Do you?
Yes.
Like in the parks?
Mhm.
It's so funny seeing all these people with their phones up in the air wandering.
I think that Pokemon Go would have been awesome with Google Glass.
It would have been. Well, maybe.
Because they don't even make Google Glass anymore, do they?
I don't know.
I think Google Glass has been
It's retired.
Yeah, it's been retired. So if you guys don't know what Google Glass was a thing that you was it an actual pair of glasses, or you just put them on your glasses?
No, it was a pair of glasses.
So Google gave you a pair of glasses. I don't know if they were prescriptions.
No, well, they were like frames, but then there was a little tiny crystal in the upper corner.
Mm-hmm.
They're really mostly just like frames, which you could probably get your own prescription in if you wanted to.
I get, that's probably where they were going with it.
Right. But the biggest thing is the crystal in the upper corner. So you kind of see it in your peripheral vision, and that's where the information would appear.
So it's like a heads-up display, an HUD
Mm-hmm.
for your just walking around and stuff.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it would have notifications from your phone. It was kind of like if you think of a smartwatch, but like in front of your eye, so you can see it at all times.
And
basically.
so it was really big a couple of years ago. Like a lot of people were trying out Google Glass and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they didn't make it quite available for purchase.
You could order
buy
it.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a waiting list for it.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's gone now. But Google
Yeah.
Glass would have been perfect for Pokemon Go. And so weren't you saying something about Pokemon Go had to do with ghosts?
I read somewhere, or someone mentioned to me that you can compare it to the world of ghosts, I guess, because
Okay.
there's these quote creatures,
Yes.
and they're there, but we don't see them unless we have the correct tool, which, a smartphone with that particular app on it. So there's people wandering around using their phone as a tool to see these invisible creatures.
Yeah.
And
It's like Cotton Mather. So in our Thanksgiving episode, when we talked about satanic Thanksgiving, we talked about how the Pilgrims were obsessed with the devil. And Cotton Mather wrote a book called The Wonders of the Invisible World.
Invisible World. That's exactly
And
right.
so Pokemon Go is this is the invisible world that the Pilgrims were talking about. Well, no, it's not the devil. It's Pikachu or whatever.
And it's a world that was created by humans.
Right. Well, which some people would say.
But it is a digital. They are kind of like ghosts. If you think about it, like, hey, we're sitting here in this studio recording right now.
Yeah.
There could be Pokemon all around us for all we know.
Pokemon.
There could also be ghosts
There's
all around
definitely
us.
ghosts all around us.
So I thought that was a funny kind of analogy.
Yeah. I also think it's funny that everybody's playing it and now everyone knows where you are, number one.
Right.
They have the video of where you're going.
Yep. The video of the inside of places. Like, that is a little bit creepy.
Pokemon Go is the ultimate government surveillance operation. So anyway,
it could be.
I hope you guys are having fun playing it. I mean, you said... Now, you were at Lambeau Field yesterday. Lambeau Field, the home of the beloved Green Bay Packers.
Yes. The frozen tundra.
Right. Well, not
so frozen
right
yesterday.
now, right.
But
Tom
yeah,
with the weather.
I was up there for a rehearsal for the Tundra line, the drum line that I'm a sub for. And we were rehearsing inside one of the gates, like actually in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a gate kind of like bars you could see through, it was open to the air. And as we were rehearsing, I'm not kidding you, I must have seen 80 to 100 people come up with their phones catching Pokemon.
Because there's like a Brett Favre Pokemon, right?
That would be awesome. I have no idea, but it was funny because first I saw a guy pull up on his bike and he almost tipped over because he had his phone in one hand and he's biking around trying to get to the exact location, and he's kind of wobbling over, and I thought, oh, that's funny. And then of course I realized what he was doing. Well, not 5 minutes later, a car pulls up, two people get out with their phones and they're wandering around. And then throughout the afternoon, it was continuous. And some of the people that I was rehearsing with told me that, and they were players. So
Sure, they're big Pokemon fans.
Right. So they said that apparently all of the gates at Lambeau Field, each of the gates has critters.
Some kind of Pokemon creature.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But I was amazed by how many people stopped right at that place just to catch those.
It's super popular. That's, that's, they're controlling our minds.
And it was just crazy because it was cars full of people coming up, just pulling up to the gate and getting out, going, doing their thing, and then getting back in the car and driving away. It's funny.
Speaking of the Packers, I caught an episode of The Bachelorette last week.
Oh my. Yeah. Can you even just freely admitted that?
Yeah, well, it's television. And so the excuse I'll use is that some of the work I do is in music supervision, and you have to find music for reality shows.
Oh, so you want to hear...
You want to hear what they're using, like what kind of like love songs or everything that somebody has. I still don't even know how the game works. I know there's roses, and I know that Aaron Rodgers' brother, quarterback of the beloved Green Bay Packers.
What? He's on it?
Aaron Rodgers' brother's on it.
No way.
Yeah. And he was like chosen by the Bachelorette to
so
like,
he's a contestant.
Yeah, he's a contestant.
Oh my goodness.
And the Bachelorette like decided to meet his family. And I'm like, what? If she gets to meet his family, she gets to meet Aaron Rodgers. And I guess
you suddenly wanted to go on the Bachelorette.
All of a sudden, I want to be the Bachelorette or whatever. But it was
wow. That's
but he was like,
hilarious.
I don't have a close relationship with my brother.
Oh.
And I'm like,
well, how would you get close to him?
You don't have a close relationship with your brother. That's the only reason you're on the show is because your brother was MVP of the NFL. Anyway. But I just thought it was funny because it's like, they're talking about Aaron Rodgers. Like, cool.
That's so funny. And sports ball comes into our lives once again.
And we're going to have to do some episodes about some sports ball because there are so many superstitions with baseball. So baseball has a ton of superstitions, and a lot of baseball players have seen ghosts.
Oh, right.
Especially in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a book that talks a lot about it called Field of Screams.
Oh, cool. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, so we'll see if we can pick up the author.
Oh, that'd be a fun topic
for an interview.
Well, and lest we forget, it was just this year, I think, that Aaron Rodgers himself said he saw a UFO.
Yes.
So,
right, and
so bringing him back into the conversation.
We have to get Aaron Rodgers on the show, but that's not quite as easy.
We need
as
to interview
an
him.
author or something.
Yeah. Other exciting news.
Yeah, I think people just must be crazy from the hot weather because they keep on joining our Patreon.
Yes, and it's so exciting every time we get a little notification that we have a new Patreon or patron.
New patrons. We have 4 new patrons in the past week. We just want to give you a quick shout out before we get into the show. So number 1, Stefan, thank you. Thank you, and welcome to the Patreon community.
Yes.
And Michael, thank you.
Michael, you rock.
Yes, you very much rock. Wayne, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Wayne.
And Marsha, welcome to the Patreon community. See you on the other side. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, and I'm so excited because now it's really going to feel like a party when we do our Google Hangouts.
Yes.
So we've got a good group of people, and they're interesting people.
Mm-hmm. We're going to schedule our Google Hangouts coming up. So we're going to put that stuff on the Patreon page. Yep. And remember, you can become part of the Patreon community for See You on the Other Side for as little as $1 a month.
What?
Yeah, that's right.
That's so cheap, Mike.
You can help feed starving musicians for as little as $1 a month. The cost of a cup of coffee.
Oh my gosh.
Less than the cost.
Yes.
We just went out for coffee,
an
hour ago, and I paid $2.50 for a cup of coffee. I could have been part of the Sunspot / See You on the Other Side Patreon community.
You could have
much
for
less
2 months, 3 months. almost.
And
Oh
I would
my
have
gosh.
gotten much more satisfaction
Yes.
out of being part of the Sunspot community.
Yeah, but if you want to join our community, how do they do that, Mike?
They go to othersidepodcast.com/donate.
Okay.
So you're already going to othersidepodcast.com to look at the show notes and to see what we're up to
Right.
and to say hi and things like that. Now just go to othersidepodcast.com/donate and you can join in.
There we go. So
today we're talking to another paranormal podcaster,
we are, yeah.
Jim Malliard from the Malliard Report.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls it the fastest hour of paranormal talk radio.
So does he talk really fast like this? Like an
He does. He talks like the Micro Machines guy. Remember the Micro Machines guy?
Yes, I do. No, he doesn't really talk like that.
No,
though.
he doesn't. But speaking of the Micro Machines guy, I had played with a band a couple of weeks ago, and they had a cattle auction during the show.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
Like
interesting.
a meat raffle.
Yeah, meat raffle, but
But living cattle.
I don't exactly know what was going on, but they had an auction,
Okay.
and he did the whole auctioning.
Oh, that's
thing.
so cool.
And
That
I-
is a skill.
It is totally a skill.
Yeah.
And the guy was kind of drunk later on. I was talking to him and I'm like, I really admire, you're talking fast and stuff like that. And he's like, I could never do what you're doing, but referring to singing and playing and stuff. I'm like, well, that's
True.
like you are not, like he's not talking fast now, but he was kind of unintelligible often like how auctioneers are. But it was pretty funny.
That's cool.
And if you guys are interested in hearing some auctioneering over heavy metal, Hank Williams III has a whole album of cattle auctioneers talking over like heavy metal riffs.
Talking. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible. I'm sorry. That sounds absolutely awful.
It's not a real crowd pleaser, but it's an experiment.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
an experiment
Sure.
that's kind of interesting.
All right, well-
So Jim Malliard does not talk anything like that. He talks like a regular
Right.
guy. And
Yes.
Wendy and I, we talked to him last week.
And it was fun because, well, we've talked to other podcasters, paranormal podcasters.
Yes.
But I think this was our first official interview of one, right?
And so it was just fun to see how somebody else approaches it,
Yeah.
what got him into it in the first place.
Yes.
Because you figure that somebody's had an interest in this their whole life. Otherwise, why would they care? He had an experience.
Not always the case.
Yeah. And so he's going to go into it. And so let's talk to Jim. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
For people that are unfamiliar with Jim Malliard, but if you listen to paranormal podcasts, chances you are
You know
familiar.
him, I'm sure.
As a paranormal investigator and the host of the Malliard Report, known as the fastest hour in paranormal radio. I'd like to think ours is the slowest hour in paranormal radio.
Well, if you need a marketing line, that might be work for you. I don't know.
They always say, what you should zig when the other person zags.
Nice.
So here's how we do it. So we just wanted to talk to Jim today about all of the cool interviews, investigations, and how we got into it in the first place. So, Jim, let's start with it a little bit. You're from Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, Western Pennsylvania. The Pittsburgh side of Pennsylvania, for those who need a visual.
Okay. And our band has played in Pittsburgh before. We've had a lot of fun. We even visited the cemetery where they filmed the beginning of Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, that's. I've never been there actually, but I'm aware it's here.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising. I've never been there, but
We deemed it as a mandatory stop when we were on tour and we were in that area.
Yeah. Wasn't it near Harmony? Is that,
Yes.
I think, the area?
Yeah, we had a friend up there who kind of guided us to the place.
I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but there's no zombies.
well, I guess I could cross it back off my list. As I was adding it, it could get crossed off before I even finished writing it.
But at nighttime, it's still terrifying. So
Yeah.
it has that going for it.
The creepiest things there were us. So
True.
you've got dozens of episodes of the Malliard Report.
It's actually over 250 now, but that's
Wow. Congrats.
Well, congratulations. We just hit 100, and I was like, I don't even, do we have 100 more in us? But that's inspiring to know. 250. So, started out, where did your interest in the paranormal begin, Jim?
Well, apparently my interest began as a child, but I don't remember that, so that's not even a good story. I could tell you the story that was told to me, but actually it started the second time, quote unquote.
Okay.
But we were in Gettysburg with my son, and he started talking to things that weren't present in the room. And so after pondering that and then seeing some stuff the next day myself that wasn't there, and then the 6-hour drive back didn't do me any favors because it gave me way too much time to think about what could be and what isn't and what was, and yeah.
So were you where were you What type of, was it like at a hotel or what?
Well, the where he started seeing stuff was in the haunted cellar, the Farmsworth, I think it's Farmsworth Inn. So, and then the next day we were out at Devil's Den, and I seen what I thought was a reenactor. Apparently, not so much, because I went to take a picture of him, not there. So,
well, that's great then. Okay, so this wasn't just something where you had an interest in the paranormal and you said you had one as a kid, but you don't remember. But as like a teenager,
no,
you weren't just reading ghost books and things.
No, I didn't touch any of that stuff until actually I got into the show. I didn't even read anything when he started investigating, even, and which probably wasn't the best idea I ever had. But nevertheless, I digress. And yeah, so it was as an adult that it came to me. Because as a kid, I used to stand around talking headstones when I was 2 or 3. So I was he was 8 months, so I guess probably was doing it even younger than that.
Wow.
And so...
Okay, and that's great. So who was it that had the experience? I mean, you talking about that had the experience when you were a child, 2 or 3, but... Your child had an experience at 8 months.
Wow.
A couple days in there somewhere. Yeah, 8 months. Or so.
Sure, close to 8 months. I mean, I didn't even think I had object permanence at 8 months. To tell you the truth.
Well, that's why it was. I don't want to say concerning. I guess isn't the word, but I guess that's the word that comes to mind, because he hadn't really babbled or carried on that focused of anything until that point. So it became really obvious that something strange was going on.
So let's set the scene here. So you guys are in the basement of this is an older hotel near Gettysburg.
We were on a ghost story kind of thing, doing the tourist bit, and there was only us and an older couple back in the back corner hanging out. They were, mid-60s, whatever, and us in the front row because if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right.
Right.
In the storyteller, and he was telling us all these great stories about all these different ghosts of Gettysburg, blah 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 blah. And then he starts staring off and babbling at something. And I'm like, okay. And then it keeps going. And then the storyteller starts telling the story about a child who was staying at the inn and ran out in the street and got hit by a horse and carriage and killed.
Oh, sad.
And you're listening to the story. And I'm like, okay. He's got a child story for us. Great.
Right. Right. Who doesn't love dead kid stories?
Yeah, that's great. And then, but this babbling continues, and so the storyteller gets these dowsing rods and starts telling us about how the deceased child, likes playing with other children if any other children come around. And, it just keeps going. I don't remember. It's all kind of fuzzy because it was just happening.
Right.
And I wasn't expecting it to happen. So, okay, so we leave that night. We go out and do one of these ghost walks through the field. And, okay, nothing really else happens that night. But it kind of registered with me that maybe there's something more to this ghost thing than I wanted to admit to at that point. And then, like I said, the next day I had my own experience, and, well, as they say, the rest is history.
Well, and it does feel like that because, like, some trips in particular seem to be, I don't know how to say, more blessed than others, or just in the way of, or more cursed than others, actually, that... Like, once the floodgates open and a couple of weird things happen, it's like you're open to more weird things happening.
Yeah, and then I came back and started talking about this weird thing that happened to me. I didn't talk too much about the sun at first. And people were, oh, yeah, that happens to me, more often you'd want to believe. And I said, well, what? How come this is the first, this is the first time I'm hearing that it's happened to you? How have you kept this big secret from me?
Like, I talk to the dead all the time. What?
Yeah.
You didn't know?
No bigs.
Yeah. Apparently I missed that day in school when everybody talked about it.
But the thing is that we find going to these conferences and stuff like that is a lot of times people are afraid to talk about if they've experienced something weird, because they're afraid of the judgments people are going to make, that they're crazy or something like that.
And I have a story even about that. This was a year or two ago. I was wearing my Paranormal Team hat out of the community yard sale. And talked to an older gentleman, walked by and then walked back by, and he comes out in the little center part, grabs me by the hip. The old guy leans into me and he says, I have to tell you something I didn't know who else to tell. I said, okay, whatever, and put my arm around him, My wife's been gone for 4 months or whatever it was, and I see her every day, and I needed to tell somebody, but if I told my kids, they'd put me in the home.
Oh, that's so sad.
So I'm like, yeah, enjoy that. Enjoy her while you have her. He's like, I still have her. And so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, at these conventions, people are a lot more open about things because they know that they're around other open-minded people and people who aren't going to just pass judgment quickly. So you tend to hear lots of really cool stories at those. And I mean, I believe what people.
But it's also sometimes in the way that you don't expect.
Yeah, that's true.
Because everybody feels so open and willing to talk about it, it comes out like, oh, but did I tell you about the time I saw a UFO? And did I tell you about the time I woke up next to Bigfoot? And I don't know if that was paranormal or just a bad night, but
probably both. No,
right.
No, but that kind of thing, it just like all comes out at once. So once the floodgates are open, everybody just it starts to happen.
Yeah.
And so when you saw that, what you thought was a Civil War reenactor, let's go to this, because it's in the back of your head now, like, hey, that was a funny coincidence that my kid starts oohing and ahhing at something when they say that a ghost child likes to play with other children, especially a cute child like I assume yours was, Jim.
Well, most of them are, but no.
So you're at the next day and you guys are walking on the battlefield at Gettysburg?
Yeah, top of Devil's Den there. It's just kind of a bloody place. And that's actually, I've come to learn later, that's where the guy who was paid to bury bodies didn't necessarily do his job. He was jamming in the cracks in the rocks there.
Oh,
but I didn't know that at the time, but gruesome
so
nevertheless.
Just being a little lazy about his job.
Yeah, well, he's getting paid to do it. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, that'd be a brutal job, though.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I don't think I'd want to do it, but nevertheless. But I didn't know that at the time, thank goodness, because I can imagine how I would have, lost it probably, knowing that.
Oh, goodness.
Was it a sunny day? Was it a gray, cloudy day? Or was it at night?
It was it was a nice day. It wasn't necessarily, it was sunny and then there were some clouds, so it was a nice day. It wasn't probably mid-70s, I guess. It was end of August, so it was a nice summer day up here.
Okay.
And
in the distance, or close, or how do you see this? What you thought was
I
a
would say
reenactor?
probably 45, 60 feet. Far enough away that you could make out what he was. Well, what I thought he was.
Right.
And by the time I, adjusted to pick up all the stuff we had floating around the car seat and, to go over there, I looked back up and it was gone. I'm like, wait, I want my picture.
Right.
We're doing this tourist thing again. I'm like, wait, I need my picture with the reenactor because that would be cool.
Right, yeah.
So, I'm like, okay. Because I figured maybe he walked down around a little bit, out of sight. I'm like, I couldn't have got that far. It's only been a minute while I picked all the stuff up and I walked over to where the spot was and nope.
Nothing.
And
so this looked like a perfectly corporeal, presence.
Oh, yeah.
So
It looked like I said, I was totally baffled that when I got over there and he wasn't there. Because I was expecting to see a person.
Okay.
Well, what a perfect place to hang out if you're a ghost, because there's all those reenactors to mingle with, but
can you imagine that? I can just there's probably one ghost. I can't imagine they're all this way, but man, he's just doing it wrong. I can just hear some.
Right.
But I think that's really interesting. So a lot of people see spirits in different ways, and some see them as what we imagine to be the transparent or the ghost with the sheet over its head, like Casper or whatever. But to have it look just like a person or just as real as solid as a person, to me, that has to be the weirdest kind of experience. Because no, I see a person over there, and the fact that you could walk right through him, always blows my mind a little bit.
I would have if he was there, but he wasn't even there anymore.
So this inspired you to start investigating on your own, or what happened next after you had this first experience you couldn't explain?
I started talking to other people, and then having heard that I wasn't necessarily bat crazy, other people had seen things and heard things. I decided maybe I should start trying to figure out what was going on. So that's when we started investigating a little bit, and then we formed the team, and yeah.
What's the full name of your team?
The full name of my team is Meadville Paranormal Investigation Team.
Okay, and so you guys get to investigate stuff all over Western Pennsylvania?
Western Pennsylvania. We've been to Ohio, West Virginia, up into New York even a little bit. So we go where people call us. Not so much anymore. Thankfully, because the TV shows have died off, we don't get necessarily all the calls we used to. And having learned some lessons the hard way, we don't necessarily always go when people call us anymore because...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you started doing those investigations, how'd you go in? Did you guys have thermal cameras or
nothing
bring
that
a
nothing that
psychic
expensive.
or holy water? What did you bring? What's a Meadville paranormal investigation team paranormal investigation like?
Well, back in the early days, it was mostly cameras and video cameras, and now we've got the ghost box that some people love and some people hate. We do dowsing rods too, but it's basically still old school, kind of in that old school. We pendulum. I haven't. I, however you want to look at it, haven't invested a lot of money into DVRs or any of that other
Sure.
stuff.
What do you mean? What do you mean by a pendulum?
The thing. How do I explain this to you? It's on a string. The little stone. That's.
I'm good with what a pendulum is, but I don't know how to
use it.
How to use it in paranormal investigation? I haven't heard of that.
Oh well, you can ask the spirits to move it left or right, or back and forth for answers, yes or no, or kind of like the dowsing rods. And they make actually some places some metaphysical stores have little. Hate to use this term, placemat that you can put underneath of it, so you know for sure what's
like
going
a Ouija board, but without the letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Something similar, but of course I don't like to spell, so maybe that's why I prefer this method.
There you go.
Okay. So the pendulum and the ghost box, and we did an interview with a couple of ghost hunters from Austin a couple weeks ago who have a show called Strange Town, and they are ghost box enthusiasts.
See, I when it's on, I'll listen to it for about 5-6 minutes, and then I've got to get out of the room because that white noise and that clicking just drives me. I can't deal with it. So
well. On the Meadville investigations, when you guys got out there and did it, talking to a lot of our friends that have done investigations over the years, a lot of them talk about how, well, it might not be something paranormal. It's really just more they're dealing with people with a substance abuse problem, or they're dealing with abuse in the family, or they're dealing with messed up situations. Of the calls you got and the places you went, what was the most convincing of the evidence you think you got?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because most of the evidence we got, hate to freely admit this, but I think we've discussed it enough as a team that we brought our own haunts with us because some of our team members had loved ones that have passed, so we always contaminated ourselves. So I'm not even sure.
Wait, how did that? Sorry, can you explain that a little bit?
Well, team members have loved ones that have passed that would go with us to these. I guess they're going with us to these investigations, and since we were paying attention, looking for ghosts, they want to try to get their message across, or just mess with us. Or
I see. Okay, so they're like, you've got the tools here to communicate.
Yeah,
with
so you're
the other
now that
side
you're finally
or
paying
whatever.
attention to ghosts, well, now you're going to pay attention to us.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it made at least it made some active investigations. Of course, we thought we were actually having something active at the location. Apparently, it was just active for us.
But that's still pretty exciting to get any kind of communication.
Well, and the problem was it always left us with more, the next time we're out. We went through the investigation stuff, so we started asking follow-up questions, trying to confirm what we were told the last time from them. So while we were, doing this investigation for a homeowner, we sneak in 10, 15, 20 an hour on us, just trying to confirm out what we found in the last investigation. So
I see.
But we didn't know. But so I don't know if anywhere that we actually, because there was a lot of normal, quote unquote, in these calls that we got. So
what do you mean by quote unquote normal in the calls?
Well, like the stuff you were referring to.
Okay, so just people with messed up lives.
Yeah. Or seeking attention, seeking to be on TV, drugs, any of the. I mean, there's a full number of things out there that could be paranormal that necessarily aren't. Electrical issues in houses. So
what I think is always interesting is the number of people that sometimes you'll get calls like it's a paranormal emergency, like they are calling Ghostbusters, like
or 911.
Even just for my haunted history tours, sometimes people will call it is the paranormal 911, and they'll say, "I think my girlfriend's possessed, man. Like I wake up in the middle of the night and I think she's going to kill me." And I've had more than one of those calls of people saying that a family member might be possessed.
Yeah.
Right. And they think that because you're the expert in haunted history.
Okay. Even
Right,
if they were possessed at let's say 1 a.m. They call you at 1 a.m. and they're an hour away. Well, by the time you get your stuff packed and get out there,
It's gonna happen.
it's whatever's gonna happen is or probably already happened.
That's why the Ghostbusters had that little ambulance thing.
Right, so they could cruise with
Quickly
the
get to the
hearse.
scene.
No, but I just think it's a funny thing that people will call and they will say like,
Yeah.
I'm scared, and then you have to call back and leave a message and say like, if you're scared, call the police.
But it's sad because it's the point of desperation where they're online searching for anybody who knows anything about hauntings or possession.
Right.
To reach that point of terror and desperation, it makes me really sad.
And the scary part of it is, I had a call from a guy in Georgia. Now, you may remember from the beginning of the show, I'm from Pennsylvania. He wanted me to come out and help him, like drop everything and be there. And I'm like, even if I could afford to do that and was able to do that,
right?
I'm still like 14 hours away from doing that. There's got to be somebody closer. Find a priest, a minister, whatever you believe in. Go talk to them about it.
Yeah.
And if they still want to talk, if they want to talk to a paranormal person, give them my number, and I'll gladly talk to them about what you're facing. But I can't just go.
Right, because you're not the on-call exorcist or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't believe on-call exorcists exist.
No,
That's a pretty cool name.
In order, I had a demonologist from somewhere on, and he was saying even if you wanted to do an exorcism, they send them to medical doctors, psychologists. It's not just one of these things that they. Well, apparently I believe he does it correctly with crossing all those T's and dotting all those
Right.
I's.
Well,
So-
you can't rush right to you can't. Oh, it's a demon. When you rush
Right, you
to
need
demonic
to-
possession right away.
Yeah.
You need to at least acknowledge that perhaps some kind of mental illness or something could be involved.
Yeah.
And exorcism is where the pop culture is going. So the ghost hunting shows have died down a little bit, and
Thankfully.
we've cycled through a lot of the ghost hunting shows, and now it's moving on to exorcism type shows.
Well, because that's the next level. And the next, I'm not sure what comes above exorcism. Is that UFO abductions? I've lost
be.
my cheat sheet somewhere along the line about these things.
The next level is Independence Day for real, and so we have to do it. No, but so exorcism shows seem to be where the pop culture is going, or where the new shows are being based on exorcisms and live and things like that. So I think that we're all going to see an uptick in possession related calls over the next couple of years.
I always worry about repossession. Never mind.
Right.
Nice. The Repo Man.
What do you mean? The paranormal business is the greatest business in the world for making money.
I didn't know the Repo Man was the latest cryptid.
All right.
We started it here, just to be careful.
That's right.
So when you guys were doing investigations, you find that you guys brought your own, contaminated this scene. But was there anything in particular that you found convincing where you guys, after you came home and you were talking about it, you just couldn't debunk it?
Most of the things that I've experienced have been like when we were setting up strange things. You start feeling strange. Feeling strange, and that's not necessarily anything conclusive. But to put my finger on anything solid now, it's been kind of always. Can trace it back around to something, and that's okay. And that the investigation part that seems fruitless at times because most of the time they ended up wanting to go. I wanted to go to sleep instead
Right.
of sitting there. I always learned something if it was about what we were chasing, or learned something about local history or something. Something always came positive out of it. Was it always paranormal, ghostly rated? Not always, but there was always something that came out of it. So there was some light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I think that's a good lesson for anybody who wants to do paranormal investigation, that the number one attribute of a paranormal investigator or a ghost hunter is patience.
It's like fishing, but worse.
It's like fishing, except there are fish.
Yeah.
So, like, we know that fish exist.
We can confirm that there are fish.
Right.
Well, you apparently haven't been fishing with me then. No.
Right. So that's the interesting thing, is just that, and I think that the shows have, and not to be too down on them, because they are great for entertainment, and it's fun, and it's gotten a lot of people into this area that wouldn't have gotten into it
That's
before.
what they are, entertainment. Once you get past that, that's where you start drawing the issues. Because if you think you're going to go to XYZ place and come out with excellent EVPs or whatever, you're fooling yourself. And and people don't realize that hour they see on TV is over the course of 3 to 5 days, depending on the show. So that they investigate a lot, and they have TV equipment going around too with them. So they get a whole second set of things they can pick from.
Right, 50 hours gets turned into like 41 minutes with commercials.
Yeah.
And so, of course, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and they have all the, and actually, how much time do they spend actually investigating when you out of that 41 minutes, because you got the backstory and all this other stuff. So actual investigation is probably just a handful of minutes.
Right, it's like a highlights reel.
Yeah.
Here's the coolest and scariest stuff that happened while we were here.
Well, it's as if being an architect was akin to being Indiana Jones.
Right.
Like,
wait, it isn't?
No, nobody's really punching Nazis. It mostly just
Well, somebody is somewhere. No.
Right. You're mostly just dealing with like deans and other professors and tenure.
And sifting gravel.
Right.
Sifting lots of dirt.
Patience. So that always fails to show that. So you had the paranormal team in Meadville.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get interested in wanting to begin a radio show about it?
Well, I wasn't even interested in beginning to do a radio show. It started because I put time into the website. I'm like, man, we need more content, because we don't really post too much about our investigations, because most 90-some-odd% of them have been at private residence. So out of respect for them, I don't want to put
the
anything.
address or like the people's names. Like, come to this guy's house. He's got a ghost. It's awesome.
And then you start looking at some of the pictures we may have evidence in. There's a picture of their kids in the background because we're at their house, and you don't want to post that. So I'm like, we need more content. So I started doing Ustream, which was, we did live little shows talking about different, like we're doing here, just about different investigations, different ideas we had. And quickly they decided that wasn't for them. And I understand, because, video and all this other shenanigans that went with it.
Right, you have to get dressed.
Yeah. And
you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that for a podcast.
So, and then I did a few videos by myself, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I kind of understand why I don't want to do this. And then I started listening to a few internet podcasts, but they were live, so I guess they're radio at that point. And I started talking to some of the hosts, and I'm like, man, and then I started listening to some more shows, and I'm like, man, I could probably do a better job than that. And so I started talking to some of the hosts, and I found one that said, hey, why don't you come on my show and co-host with me? And I said, okay. And then that didn't last that long, but out of that became my show. And
once you got into the Malliard Report, how did you decide what you were going to talk about? Because it's one thing to go from to talk about ghosts and hauntings. You've experienced something yourself. You saw a recording of someone in the battlefield at Gettysburg. I mean, that's an experience that you experienced yourself concretely. That's one thing to go from that to John Tesh is an alien. Kind of thing.
Well, it evolved through time, and it's funny because I mentioned this last night on my show. I have the original show notes that I wrote out, like what I wanted to talk about the first few weeks, and how I wanted to gear the show. And the show is nothing like it was supposed to be at that point. So I wanted to be the investigator talking to other investigators and just kind of moseying through all that stuff, and then
like chatting about what's the best app, or which spirit box is the best. I like the SR1, but the SR2 pats you in the butt.
That kind of thing. And and then somebody said, hey, I've got a psychic that wants to come on your show. Well, okay, that's still very much within what I do.
Yeah.
And then a paranormal romance author contacted me, and I went, what? Oh, well, I'm desperate for guests. Bring her down. Let's go. And then she was interesting, and then next thing I know, it's ghosts, UFOs.
Down the rabbit's hole.
It's everything and anything I can get my hands on that I find interesting.
It's Hollow Earth and Giants. Before
well, I haven't talked I've talked Flat Earth a couple weeks ago, and let me tell you, I should have took some more medication before I started that chat.
Right. Okay. So Flat Earth.
That's
like,
not very paranormal. Well, okay. I guess I didn't hear that.
if you start getting, you can make anything paranormal. I've learned.
I suppose you're right.
it's an alternate. It's an alternate view of accepted physics.
Once you start talking about different dimensions and perceptions and things.
And he was doing well. He was a mathematician. He was trying to make, trying to get me. But he lost me when he said there's no edge. It just goes on infinitely. You can't walk off the Earth. I went, yeah.
What about the astronauts?
Yeah. What about all these pictures from space? It's just like it goes on infinitely.
Right.
So all these other planets are kind of just, I don't know. Yeah.
That's like the whole idea that our planet's on top of a turtle. Like, what was that old
Nice. Oh, that's
thing?
from the Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, but then it's like, what's under the turtle? And it's just turtles all the way down. And so when he's like, oh, there's no edge, you just can't walk off. Well,
then if you combine that with the hollow Earth theory, it's like, a few feet, and then it's just nothing underneath. It's just us on top. It goes on forever. Just
right.
Nothing below us, apparently.
And if you've ever walked on a roof, you know how scary that is. Imagine having a planet like that.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is, there is something that you can keep walking on and you'll never fall off that just keeps going on, and it's called a sphere.
Yeah.
So, I think he makes his own point. Like, yeah, you'll never fall off the edge. Right, because you end up at the start.
Well, you can't walk the whole way around the Earth because there's water, but
Okay, well.
Right, and if you're on a sphere, you're probably going to slip and fall. Let's be honest. Unless you're a trained circus entertainer.
Fair enough. So you got into that. You haven't gotten into giants yet.
Not yet.
But
I'm sure it's coming up sometime. I just don't know when. But it'll pop up. Somebody will send me an email about it. Be like, hey, I haven't talked about that before.
Have you ever used a psychic for a free reading? Just like, you're going to be on the show, then you're going to read me.
No, there was a psychic that begged me to do a reading before they came on the show because they wanted to show me how wonderful they were. And they didn't end up coming on the show.
Okay.
Oh.
Prove it.
So they should have just let me go with my method and get themselves on the show and not do the reading for me because their information
not so much.
Not so hot.
Okay.
Well, I think it's interesting is that so many people do readings over Skype.
Yes.
And we were just talking about this last week in our Star Trek episode because we talked about the psychic powers of Star Trek. And in Star Trek, they have this thing called a psionic field. And a psionic field is this medium that surrounds you and other people can pick up on it. And so that's, I guess it's like an aura. When your auras connect, you can read somebody's mind. And when someone does a reading over Skype, there's no way that your fields can touch because you're transmitting through a computer.
Assuming that the fields you're talking about from Star Trek apply to the world we live in.
Right, but when you think that there needs to be some kind of physical medium
I'd imagine it. No, this is just me. I'm not a medium by any stretch of the imagination. But it's easier probably to see the person via Skype than it would be just to do the old phone reading kind of bit. So
right.
maybe there is a little more, if you're doing
pick up on
degrees of understanding and better connection, Skype, so you could see the person, be better than not just doing the phone. But I don't know. I'd like to be in. Of course, I'm not a medium, so I don't. But I'd have to be in the same room with the person just so I could see how the.
To me, it would go to show that psychic powers have nothing to do with physical mediums as we understand. Not medium like spirit mediums, but the medium with like air.
Yeah.
We talk. Yeah. And then sound waves have to connect with air. That's why when you hear lasers in space in the movie, you should not be hearing lasers or explosions in space.
But, back to the Skype thing, like think about the fact that people meet online and fall in love. I mean, sharing an emotion or something like that.
Yeah, and then they actually move in together and ends horribly. But anyway.
Right. See, if they were psychic, they'd know that it's not going to work out.
No, I'm just saying that.
The relationship is best left of Match.com or Paranormal Date or whatever.
You can pick up on things just by, like you're saying, seeing and hearing a person.
You can make a connection across the internet, but I don't know how accurate the connection. I mean, we're talking about like friendship connection. I don't know how accurate any kind of love connection or psychic connection would be.
Yeah, I don't either, but I hear stories all the time about people who meet online, and I always think, gosh, it'd sure be hard because, I like to get to know somebody in person, and there are things you pick up on you'd think in person, but it happens. So, I mean, who am I to judge, right? So,
and those girls on Twitter are always saying that love connection can happen all the time. I've got 6 messages in my inbox right now.
Anytime
Let's
you
say
want.
it can happen.
And they'll
Just
sell you
dial
the
this
Ray-Bans for $10 to wear on the date.
New sunglasses, $14.99 for Ray-Bans. You got to be kidding me. What a deal. But to me, it just shows that, when I think of a physical medium, like I think of the air and sound waves, I think of analog. I think of the grooves in a record.
Yeah.
Just like when you think of the stone tape theory of maybe what you saw at Gettysburg when, you saw a Civil War soldier there. That has some kind of physical explanation for it. And see, that's always the tough thing when say like, well, I got to get a psychic reading over the internet. It takes the physical part out of it because everything's, even our voices right now, our images are being reproduced.
Mike, you're so old-fashioned. You and your analog.
I am an analog. And I'm going to buy a record on vinyl.
Who's to say that the psionic field, and again, we talked about this last week, but who's to say that it can't go through the internet? Like maybe the river flowing around us goes right through the camera and the microphone and it flows through the internet over to you.
It could, and that can be reproduced as well. And I think the idea is that when we talk about this stuff, it doesn't have a physical explanation. So the more and more we look for physical explanations for it, the more disappointed we're going to be in the end.
But the nice thing is there's so much to talk about, which makes it great for the Malliard report because there's like an endless amount of things to talk about.
Yes. And then you start diving off these other little things, and it's endless.
Right.
Which is good because it keeps it fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Absolutely. And I noticed that another topic that you discuss a lot, and which is one of our favorites too, is the whole UFO, the world of UFO, the universe of UFOs.
Right. Good. That's a good way to put it.
Well, I guess my belief is if we're the smartest thing ever, we're in trouble.
Big time.
Just saying, for the record, if we're it, well, we're going to be it probably here in the next couple thousand years. There'll be nothing left in the universe, apparently.
Have you yourself ever seen anything strange in the sky, Jim?
No, I haven't. Not yet.
No, me neither.
I saw something strange in the sky, but I know what it was. I was in California when they did that missile test back in November. It really freaked me out until I searched Twitter and got the explanation, but seeing that weird blue spiral like up in the sky, that I feel like that's what it would be like to see a UFO or something.
That was good for me because it got me a guest spot on Sirius XM, so that was good.
Oh
for me.
wow!
Hey, nice.
That's exciting.
And I went with the theory: why would the government be so stupid to shoot it off when they know people were right there?
Well, I mean, for me, it was a cool experience because I saw it and I just
So keep telling people you saw the UFO.
Had no explanation for it, and that's
and that's it, right?
Right, but I'm just looking up there, going, "Oh, what is this? Are they coming for us?" Like,
right, it's on. Do you guys ever have those UFO dreams?
No.
Okay, I have UFO dreams all the time, and it's maybe once a month. You look up and you see a UFO, and you're like, "Well, you got it. That's it. I've seen it. This is not human by any stretch of the imagination. Like I'll see, when they talk about people seeing a UFO, and sometimes I'll be like, I saw an alien looking at me inside. Well, I'll see that in the dream, and I'll be like, awesome, that's it. I've got it. I've got what I needed. I wanted proof of UFOs, and here I have it. I'm looking at it right now.
And then what happens? You wake up?
No, it usually goes up for about 10 minutes, and then the UFOs try to kill me, like it's an invasion, and I'm going to die. Like it always ends up in a nightmare.
Do the ships always look the same? Or are they different from dream to dream?
Every dream is a different ship.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
But a lot of times it's just weird stuff that happens in the sky. And it'll usually start with an alignment of stars, and the stars will start circling or something, and then it'll become into a UFO when I'm looking up in the sky. And and so I'll always get and then I get the ghost dreams. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, I got proof of a ghost or something, and like weird stuff will happen. You'll see something float, and I'm with a big group of people. I'm like, you see, it's real. Ghosts are real.
That happens to me too.
And then the next thing will happen. It'll be a nightmare kind of thing. Like I'll turn on the radio, and then it'll be static, and it's like, let's see if we can hear what the ghost says through the static of the radio, like the spirit box. And the next thing you hear is like, Mike, you will die.
I'm sensing a theme here. So we know the things that you think about most of the time during the day. Ghosts, aliens. But we also know
it always ends up with death. I noticed.
Right.
Right. They're always coming for
It's a disaster every time. Mike, you need to work on your outlook here. You need a little more optimistic.
I need
outlook.
a little less War of the Worlds, a little more Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Well, I'm curious, Jim. You've had so many different guests and such a wide variety of awesome weird paranormal topics. Do you have a favorite guest or a few favorites maybe that stand out among all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's a tough question.
I know, I'm sure.
Because I could write. There's a number of people, like the psychic lawyer Mark Anthony has been on multiple times, so I guess he's one of my favorite people. But that's not even necessarily always paranormal, because I can get him on and we can talk about
The law.
whatever's going on.
Sure.
Well,
Wait, I haven't heard about the psychic lawyer before. I want to hire him.
Well, you can, I'm sure, for the right price.
He's a lawyer.
But give us a little, like, what does the psychic lawyer do? You know,
Well, he used to practice law. I don't know if he's still practicing or not,
Okay.
because he's got a couple books out and touring and all that fun stuff with the books now. So I don't know how much he actually practices anymore. But
so he's not like a guy that uses psychic powers like in court.
no, he's never used them in court.
Like on the witness stand, he's cross-examining a witness, and he's like, "I see it in your mind.
He's
you killed him."
lying.
And the person breaks down, is like, "He's in my mind."
No, he's never used it in court. He's used it to turn some clients away, though. Apparently, from what he told me, because he could just tell that, well, as you can imagine, where they were headed. But that, I don't know. It's hard to pick any of them, because, like, I'm thinking having George Norrie on twice has been fun.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Sweet from the Swiftwater Research Center. They talk about the power of prayer and how you might want to go check that one out, because you might even want to check him out and have him on your show. Because of you were talking about how Skype and this other stuff, but it's amazing the impact of actually being in the room for some of that stuff does work. So
Okay.
and my buddy Andrew Nussbaum, who used to be a day trader on Wall Street, who gave it all up and is kind of into time travel and meditation, and surprises me because I can go. He loves talking that stuff, and I every once in a while I'll sneak a Wall Street or a politics question on him, because
That's cool.
he went to Wharton Business School. I mean, he stays current on all this stuff, but he doesn't like to dwell on it. So
But it'd be first to think about time travel, as we all do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love it when people make the jump or at least,
Yeah, I think right now he's in. Well, he was in Nepal for a while. He's over. I don't know where he's at right now, but he's not in the States anymore. He was here for a few months. And I said, "What are you doing here? You're lost?" And he's like, well, "No, I just had to come back for a little bit." And I said, "Oh, okay."
Well, now what interests me is you're someone that got into this as an adult.
Wait, when did I become an adult? No.
Right. As someone who got into it as an adult, instead of getting into it, because when you get into it as a kid, and I think about just being inundated with all the stuff from Bermuda Triangle to ghosts and UFOs to Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster, and all that kind of stuff. When you get into it as an adult, then you don't have that childlike wonder. Because when you're a little kid, you're thinking, well, yes, obviously the Loch Ness Monster is real.
Yeah,
And
imagination.
obviously Bigfoot's going to be real, people. Like, why are we even talking about this? You know it's real. I mean, you're a little kid. But then when you get in as an adult, you already have that layer of disbelief.
It's the opposite almost. It's not
it's
real.
harder to believe. So like, I still struggle with Bigfoot, because if he's real, why haven't we found him or got at least a fairly substantial set of pictures on him?
Well, some people say it's because Bigfoot's a ghost.
I know.
But
I've heard that.
Or that he goes in and out of dimensions.
I've heard that too, but I somewhere, something.
You think that if you're a dimensional traveler, though, you'd smell better.
Yeah.
Because that's what always...
Does he always travel to the other dimension to go to the bathroom? Is the next question. I just...
Right, because there'd be droppings. No, the whole thing about Bigfoot is that people say that have had a Bigfoot experience, that it smells horrible. So that was one of the things that at the Milwaukee Paranormal Convention last year, someone came up and approached me, and she drove from Michigan, and she's like, I'm not really into paranormal stuff, but I had a Bigfoot experience and I need answers. I'm looking for a team to help me come up there, because when we go up there, Marquette, Michigan, so up in the UP,
Yeah.
they're terrified. She's absolutely terrified. And she said, it smells disgusting.
Yeah.
And
I've heard that from a number of people, and I've never experienced it. So, but I guess maybe the smell is the one thing they can leave behind.
I was thinking that we should have looked more into that. I think we might have. I think Bigfoot might have visited the Sunspot van. We have enough evidence of horrible smells in that vehicle.
yeah, any band van.
Maybe that's it. He hides in the band vans, like while the show is going on. That's why they always smell so bad. Oh my gosh.
He's the driver.
Eureka.
No, but the thing is, so Jim, what I was trying to think was, as someone who started getting into this as an older person, is there any person you've interviewed where you started off cynical and started off really skeptical, and then by the end of the interview, you were like, I'm a believer. I am, praise Jesus, hallelujah, I'm in.
No, not really. But I've learned some stuff from people, but I've never been fully convinced of anything. And I always come from, especially when it comes to people telling me their story, I have my own stories, and I understand them. But until I actually hear them, because sometimes I'll listen to somebody's story and go, yeah, no, I just can't.
Not buying.
But I don't let that come through on the air. It's just I try to stay, neutral and be nice to them. But other times it's like, oh, okay, so it makes more sense now that I've heard it than when I read it in the email or whatever it was. So, but nobody's flipped me or made me believe or changed totally anything.
That approach reminds me of the way that Art Bell would approach interviewees and whatnot. No matter what they'd say, he would maintain a very neutral.
Yeah, I'm here to let the guests tell their story or their information or whatever.
That's cool. Ask questions.
Yeah, and if they, my joke is when I'm in the chat room, people are like, "Why are you letting them talk?" Well, my job is to give them enough rope to hang themselves. I hate to say that publicly, but
wow,
because sometimes you let somebody keep talking, and you don't interrupt them with a question immediately about the first point they make. They start talking, and you can hear they wanted to interrupt it, and they didn't get interrupted, so they feel the need to keep going, and the details keep getting bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, they were hanging out with Sasquatch and Barack Obama.
Right.
Well, maybe not that far, but
in Area 51, right? They're in Area 51 with Barack Obama and the head of Walt Disney. No, so what guests have you not interviewed? Like, who's your dream guest to have on the Malliard Report?
Well, I've got two. In that, I mean, I've got just a huge list of people, but the two that stand out to me are Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy. I think I've seen him interviewed, and forget the character impersonations and all that other stuff. He's just so knowledgeable about a lot of things in the world. I'd love to hear him talk about ghosts and Bigfoot, and just to hear what he has to say. And the other is Dan Aykroyd. I just love.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd. He's everybody's dream.
I was gonna say, I think he ranks number one on a lot of people's lists, but
right,
I can't help but not have him on my list. But
yeah,
good choice.
When we were talking about Ghostbusters a couple episodes ago, and we were talking about the real life paranormal influences behind Ghostbusters, you could really tell with Dan Aykroyd that he had just a knowledge of the paranormal that made the movie feel more grounded than it should have.
Yes.
A ridiculous movie like that. And the remake lacks that, or the new version.
No, spoiler. No.
I'm not going to spoil it.
I still haven't seen it.
It'll make you laugh. It definitely will make you laugh, but it doesn't have that same kind of.
I've read enough reviews of it to know that it's not what the first one was, and they never are. So
right, exactly.
And it shouldn't be, because also it's we're not 1984 when Bill Murray walks out of that thing, he goes, "It's Miller time." Like nobody says it's Miller time anymore.
Well, apparently you're not hanging out in the right circles. You're still too busy playing, apparently.
So yeah, Dan Aykroyd's a good choice, and Seth MacFarlane, it's interesting. And Seth MacFarlane's an interesting choice too, because I think that he would come in and he would just poo-poo everything.
I think so too, but I'd love to hear it. Like I said, he's just so well spoken on a lot of other things. And if it got too bad, I'm pretty sure he'd just crack some jokes as Stewie or whatever, and it'd just be fun. So,
well, it would be a very fast and entertaining hour of paranormal radio to talk to Seth MacFarlane, even though he's I'm pretty sure he's an atheist. So he'd be like, in that sweet like Barrett, he'd be like, "I don't believe any of this crap."
Yeah, well, it'd be fun.
Yeah, it certainly would be fun. No, that's great. And Jim, we want to thank you for joining us today and telling us a little bit about your own paranormal experience and your show.
It's been fun talking with you.
And so when people want to find you online, when they want to find more about the Malliard Report, and if they haven't heard you yet, I'm sure most of the people who are listening to this podcast have listened to you, but we want to make sure
somebody out there who hasn't heard the report.
Right.
The easiest way to... This is probably the first interview I've ever got to say this, but you can go to mallard.report. And you can go either way. You can actually go as it's spelled like the duck, or you can get it if you spell it like the same way my last name is spelled.
Clever.
Spent too much... should have stayed off the website that day. They had a sale. But nevertheless, that's the new...
So Malliard.report, you can find it. That's where you can listen to the latest episode. What's your next episode going to be about? Give us a spoiler.
Spoiler, Bob Bain from Mysterious whatever. He just changed the name of his podcast. So I'm going to be doing what you're doing, having another podcast guest on. So,
all right.
It's cool.
It's the self-reflective podcast week.
Podcast party.
I think is the way to do it. So
I guess that's what happens during the summer. We kind of just start.
Yeah. Well, also you want to see, what are the influences behind the other people who are compelled to do this? Because investigators are usually compelled for some reason to search for the truth, and people who are on television are compelled for a different reason, to search for the money. And people like us are searching for something, have fun, to discuss something, and to learn something from other people who have had experience.
High fives all around.
High fives all around. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for joining us. All right, so we want to thank Jim for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.
On the See You on the Other Side podcast.
Yeah.
And make sure to check out his podcast, and you can find a link to the Malliard Report.
Right.
The fastest hour in paranormal talk radio.
That's right.
In the show notes at
othersidepodcast.com/102.
Mm-hmm. And we know you're already going there to check out the cool stuff, and also to othersidepodcast.com/donate to help out.
Of course.
But othersidepodcast.com/102, you'll find the link to Jim's podcast and also some interesting things about our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So for the song this week, we decided to take the inspiration of what Jim saw in the graveyard, or what he saw at the battlefield in Gettysburg.
Right.
He saw a dead man. Right.
So spooky.
A guy still fighting a war, 150 years after that war was over. And this song is kind of about that. People still fighting about things. People still, things that are long past their due date.
Okay.
And so I took the inspiration of that, and this song is called Dead Man.
All the years that I spent waiting for a chance, all the hopes projected onto you, sitting on a bench watching someone else, living the life I was supposed to. 1,000 different scenes all played out in my brain of this moment, how it happens and what it means. And now it's happening and everything has changed. 'Cause sometimes your eyes still ask me. A part of me I thought that won you, never had a chance. You're in love with the dead man. You're in love with the dead man. Old t-shirts that get worn around the house, old pictures they're supposed to be thrown out. Why do you love someone who cannot love you back? Why is it always better living in the past? All these memories I pass, they sell by day, and a ghost still roams throughout our halls. A dream is always sweeter than our present state, and second place is better than nothing at all. Part of me, I thought that in love with a dead man. Part of me, I thought they want you. Never had a chance. You're in love with a dead man. It's the thought of him that always haunts you. You're slipping through my hands. You're in love with a dead man. A dead man. A dead man.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
It smells disgusting.